Cooper, the question is, do you really need another guitar?
Yes.
Maybe. We'll talk about it. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. If you'd like to support the channel, visit our Teespring store linked below for custom designed t-shirts. So the question really is, and there's probably many significant others who ask this on a regular basis, like, do you really need another guitar?
Yep.
Yeah? Universally, Cooper says yes. Today, I'm not so convinced, and I want to talk a little bit about the differences when it comes to buying guitars, because I think there's really, for people who have large collections, there's two main reasons, and I think there's an important distinction and maybe some guidance that we could bring. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a worthy conversation there.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, how many guitars do you have, roundabout, would you say?
I'd say, I think it's probably about 15, maybe 14 or 15, something like that. I've gotten in the mood recently because I've been buying guitars, more or less, more frequently over the last year or so.
It happens when you work here.
Yeah, it's a curse. I've been trying to get rid of one when I get a new one.
Yeah.
Narrow it down, and then at a certain point,
And you're not even married yet, so hey, you're way. Usually it's it's kind of a spousal rule, right? One out, one in type thing. So good on you there, mate.
Trying to make it easy. But yeah, I think the thing is, for me, for a long time, it was I just want as many guitars as I can have. There were some overlaps within my collection that were probably some redundancies, and so I think the whole goal would be to add completely unique tools to the tool belt and try and, because I like to record a lot. I like to play a lot of shows, not this year, but whatever. So it's planning for the future. I think having a good arsenal is a worthy thing, but also you can have one or two and it's personal preference. What do you think?
You know the old adage is, how many more guitars do you need? One more. That was always Maurice's favorite, working with customers in the store. We are a music store, right? Do you need a new guitar? Yes, you need a new guitar. But, and I think sometimes that is yes. To your point, there was a moment where I turned around and I had 20 some odd guitars. And there were a lot that weren't getting played. And I think I've confessed on this channel before, I have a really difficult time selling gear. And I have had some moments where I've kind of regretted selling it, but not entirely, just kind of like, well, I kind of miss that guitar. The reasons I sold it still stand, but I do miss it, or I miss that amp, or what have you. And usually it's been in an endeavor to just buy new gear, thankfully. I haven't had one of those moments in any recent time where I had to sell gear to pay bills. That's always a difficult thing. But I've looked at, because I kind of had this moment of thinning the herd, to become a little bit more critical of what I had, what I owned, and why I owned it. And so I think it's a good conversation to have for you, our guitar watching community. Do you need another one? Should it be something different? And really kind of some of the distinct differences between collecting and amassing guitars that are, to your point, tools of the trade.
Yeah.
And so, I think for a collector, that's why I'm holding this, there are some unique options out there, right? I don't think for most musicians, unless you're like a touring musician where you need multiples of the exact same guitar, having multiples of the same guitar really is more in the collectible route. And there are a lot of things that you could collect that I would argue are not as great as guitars. I think guitars are a lot funner than spoons.
Yeah.
Particularly spoons from different cities. If that's your thing, that's cool. My grandmother collected thimbles. Of course, she was a sewer, so I get that. And that's a lot less expensive, I would hope. There's probably like a diamond-encrusted thimble out there that's really expensive, though.
It's the Gibson 60th anniversary thimble.
There you go, the Monarch thimble.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, literally, you could effectively collect anything. There's a guy I watch that collects Chinese takeout menus up in New York City. He's
cool.
very praised in the Guinness Book of World Records, you know. So you could collect anything, and there's things that I think are less worthwhile, in my opinion, to owning a musical instrument that you can make music with. And there's also something to be said for, you know, things that are a lot more expensive. Guys who collect classic cars, for instance, those are a lot more expensive than even, you know, the most expensive kind of limited edition model of a guitar. So, you know, where do you come down on when it comes to collecting guitars?
Collecting guitars, I think it's a pretty cool. I have a few friends that have beautiful guitar collections, and it's. I think it's something to be admired because this is somebody who has put time and thought into finding things that spark joy. If we're going to do a Marie Kondo kind of thing, but I think, I don't know. Sometimes they're like superfluous things, but I would love to be able to one day have a beautiful guitar collection.
Just hang them on the wall and have them look awesome.
I think like there's some guys with studios in town that you'll go into that back room that they have, and it's like 50 guitars back there, and every single one is very cool. I think that you should collect as much as you can play on a good basis. I think that you need to give each one its due.
Now that's interesting because I've met collectors in the store that we've sold guitars to that don't play.
Yeah.
And that's interesting because, and I don't know, if you're out there and you're watching this and you are a collector and you don't play, here's what I've always been curious about. Why not?
Yeah.
Like, I get that if you're just attracted to guitars in general, they are beautiful instruments for sure, and there's a lot of unique things out there. But learn to play, even if it's basic. You know, really enjoy the investment. So that's always kind of thrown me for a loop, honestly. But I do think that there's the great aspect of collecting. There was a guy, he's passed away, but he was famous in certain online communities for collecting Koa guitars. And he had just, you know, we all love Koa. His collection was just unsurpassed when it came to this beautiful, you know, Koa acoustic guitars and whatnot.
If you're the type of person that has one guitar or maybe two, you have a very small collection relatively, there's something kind of magical that happens where that guitar or very few guitars become so worn into you as a player that they're more comfortable than anything that you could ever just go buy off the hook. So that's a very cool thing that may not occur if you have 20, 30, 50 guitars because I mean, it might happen. You might have one that you pull off the wall, and the rest are showpieces. But I think a goal would be to, you know, get your use out of every single guitar that you have, and it's going to take a lot longer to wear down 15 to 20 guitars than just one. But it's tough because when you have a big collection, you have so many different flavors. I recently purchased a Rickenbacker, and last year I purchased a Jazzmaster. And I've been having a ton of fun layering those two very different voices, doing harmonized parts, because it sounds like two different human beings, you know,
it's
voices.
Like voices, yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. So I don't know. I think that I equally respect the person that has one Martin D28 that they've played for the last 60 years, and it is their only guitar, and it's at this point it's their custom guitar, you know.
Well, there's some guys that just like love Stratocasters, right? They have 15 Stratocasters, and that's cool if you know you love them, and you could set them up differently, or they could all be the exact same thing. And to me, that really speaks to a collection. I will add on to something that you were just saying, which is it's been my advice to people for a while now, just because I've seen this repeatedly in the store working with people, is that sometimes guys will have collections because they've been trying to find that elusive guitar, one, or two, they've been trying to justify the guitar that they really, really want. And so they build these kind of mini collections, and the way I've always said it is they're buying their 12th guitar and they don't really like the previous 11. And I'm not a big fan of that. I get how it happens. I get that, you know, sometimes when you're starting out, you're not very sure where you are, but I am a big proponent that if you've got some time under your belt playing, so to speak, and you've been able to identify what your ear likes and what you aesthetically like and what your hand likes, you know, you're educated enough to the point that it's then justifying. You know, here's the thing we always hear. Even on this channel, we see the comments. Am I good enough to, you know, justify a $3,000 guitar? And never mind that no one asks that question when they buy a $3,000 laptop. But, you know, it's what happens, you know. And my advice is, yes, you know, it's a lot. One, it's more expensive to kind of build up with lesser guitars in your mind to the one that you eventually want. It's a lot more expensive to do it that way. But to your point, if you get that guitar, kind of that one, you have that opportunity to really enjoy it. There's something to be said for back in the day. There was the kind of the heirloom Martin. We've talked about this, right? That someone's father had or someone's uncle had, and that was their only guitar. But it was something that was like an HG28, which is an amazing guitar. Sometimes we lose perspective on how great these guitars are. I think I was fortunate because early on, I purchased my Taylor 914C, and I had a Fender American Strat, and those were my two guitars. Until I started working here. Until I started working here, I had three guitars. I had those two, and I had a baby Taylor, and that was it. And that's all I played. And then after I started working here, my collection very quickly ballooned. And then I sold stuff, and so that's the idea of collections. But then to your point, if someone's buying something and they're buying something as a tool, to utilize as a new voice, then I think it becomes a very different conversation when it comes to justifying a new guitar. And I'll tell you where I'm at. I reached a point where I had so many guitars and I wasn't playing a lot of them that I sold some of those guitars to buy a very nice amp. Right? I kind of looked, I'm like, well, I've got some really expensive guitars and some kind of okay amps. And so looking at what I played and kind of what my needs were as a musician, and that's, I think, really the distinction here is, are you buying the gear as a collector? Do you have like 37 Electro-Harmonix pedals because you like Electro-Harmonix pedals? Or are you buying these to put on pedal board and to perform with? And so is it as a collector or as a musician, those needs differ. This could be very cool for a musician, or it could be very cool for a guy who loves Strats and wants something unique in their collection. But those needs are very, very different from one to another. And so, at some point, I stopped buying so many guitars, and I was buying gear based upon need. So, it sounds like you've kind of reached the same point.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the same thing, but I have like a note on my phone that's a running note that's just gear I want. And it's transformed over the years from I want a D18, a D28, a D35, and now it's like I have an acoustic guitar that I love so much. I want a beautiful condenser mic to, like even better one to pick up that sound better, or I want a twin reverb, or like it starts to be this thing where you have
a resonator. That's on my list.
You want to pick up different, diversified things. I think there's something interesting you said too, though, that when you take care of these guitars, they'll last forever. And if you have a collection, that can make your children or your friends or any person just way in the future, those can be, loved by many different people in different ways. And so, it's interesting to think about the Heritage Martin because.
Well, and just really just that quintessential one guitar. There's a lot of artists, right, that we associate with that one guitar, right? It's Jimi Hendrix, it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, it's whoever, that one guitar that they played because it was their favorite. And so a lot of these guys had huge collections of guitars. John Mayer has a huge collection of guitars, but there's particular ones he's always playing and kind of putting through its paces. And I think a lot of that comes from experience. It comes from preference that we build. And so I think where I'm coming at is there's never not a good reason potentially to buy new gear, but is it always a new guitar? And I think for a collector, it's going to fit in your collection, and that's based upon your own proclivities and the things that you decide for yourself. Right? You don't need our justification. You already know what you like, what you want, whether it's your thimble or your spoon from New York City or what have you. Your collection is. I had a spoon from New York City. Anyways, so you have the things that you like, and you're going to purchase them, right? You might be a Strat guy. You might want the kind of holy quadrility of a Tele Strata, Les Paul, and a PRS or something, right? Or you might be more in the vein of a musician, and I think that's why both you and I have at times had to sell gear. Because you look back and you go, if it's like tools in a tool bag, I'm not using this wrench anymore. Or I have 4 others that are just like it and I need something else. And so we sell gear to buy gear that meets our needs more. And to your point, yes, my list, I want a banjo. I'm not sure if I want an actual banjo or something like a 6-string banjo, which
Yeah.
would be cool. I want a resonator. I need a new mandolin. I'm using my grandfather's old mandolin, and
Yeah.
it's needs help.
Yeah.
And so there's things that I want, and they're not always guitars.
Yeah.
At one point, I was selling stuff to buy an amp. I said I was also selling guitars to buy pedals. Because I found myself at a creative limit of what I needed for what I wanted to produce musically.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think maybe 2 years ago, I looked at all my guitars and I had 3 Strats and 2 Tellies. That's a lot of single coil pickups between those
Yeah.
5, but I had no humbuckers anywhere near me, and that's a voice that you need, or Jazzmaster pickups. They're single coils, but they sound different.
They're different,
And
yeah.
P90s sound different, and so I think looking at kind of the guts of the guitar and building a collection around, neck shapes and different pickups and different, voices and stuff, it's a very cool thing. And to be able to record a song that you're laying 3 guitars and it's humbuckers, Jazzmaster pickups, and single coils or something, or acoustics, different tone woods.
Yep.
And,
Not a single guitar that I own is like another guitar I own. And that's kind of a rule that I go by. And it occurred to me as we were talking about this, let this just go ahead and be guidance when you're trying to justify your purchase to the significant other. But I don't have anything like this. That's a much easier thing than, well, it's a different color.
I need Koa. I need a mahogany guitar. Yeah.
Mahogany, Koa, rosewood, dreadnoughts. I mean, there's so many different options out there, and they all fit needs. And I think that's the advice that we're trying to give you today, is to find those things that fill those gaps of need.
I have to ask you,
Yeah.
before the end, if you were going to have to narrow it down to 2, and not in your collection, but you get to go to Alamo Music and you pick an acoustic and an electric, what are you starting your arc with?
My electric would be a Stratocaster. And it's funny, I was having that conversation with my brother-in-law the other day. I've got 3 main electrics out of the 5 that I tend to play, but the main rotation is a Fender Select Strat that I played on this channel that I own, that if people go back far enough, they'll see. I have a PRS Santana that I lucked into. True story, I actually convinced my wife I was buying that because it was like new old stock and such a deal, and I was going to sell it for profit. And then I played, I was like, no, this guitar is not going anywhere. And that guitar has been in my collection for a bit now and gets a lot of playtime. And I have a custom shop Les Paul, a 59 reissue that I absolutely love.
It's hard to beat that one.
That one is not as versatile as the other 2, and I think probably the most versatile is a Strat. And so it's funny, as we're talking about this, I tend to go at it not from the value of the guitar price-wise or even the aesthetics, although they're all amazingly beautiful guitars, but really what would fill, if I only could have one, what fills most of what I need playing a set. And so, it'd be the Strat. And on acoustics, it would probably be my 914C. I've got some amazing acoustic guitars. And but that one, it was my guitar, my only acoustic guitar, roughly for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so, the neck is conformed to my hand. And as a rosewood spruce top guitar with a nice pickup system in it, it's pretty versatile on its own.
Yeah. Totally.
So how about you?
I got to go with you on the Strat. I love so many things, but Olympic White Strat, whether
Pretty
I have
classic.
one or not, I love that guitar. And for acoustic, my custom, if it was one of mine, if I had to go into a store, I think a J45 is a really good choice. I think like any of those kind of flagship from Taylor, Martin, or Gibson, I think it'd be really hard to beat. Maybe a D28, something like that. That it's just like a workhorse.
When you do kind of like
forever.
Texas Americana country rock stuff, and so you really are kind of like, those fit your needs.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to beat those. I know that those are, relatively extravagant. Obviously, we both have expensive taste and stuff, but
Not too bad, all things being considered.
did you say not too bad?
Not too bad. Well, I mean, I put in
You have a
context.
59 custom shot. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't drive like a Ferrari. It's kind of like there's some things that are more attainable and at the kind of top echelon of what you can get. So
I know
it's
the
just
sticker
further.
price. I know the sticker price on your truck. All
I
right.
can justify anything. So, But yeah, I think hopefully this is a good conversation for you. And this time of the year, both for holiday season stuff and the inevitable sales that take place, you're probably looking at buying new gear. And so here is my advice to you: if you're a collector, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna get what you want to get, and we fully support you in that endeavor. But if you are doing it from a more musical standpoint, do broaden your horizons. This is a mistake I made a long time ago, and realize all of the other things that will benefit you playing. Amps, pedals, recording equipment. That goes for interfaces. It goes for microphones. There's a whole lot of things to support you in your musical endeavors that I think are worthwhile investments.
Yeah, absolutely. Show us your collections and send us pictures and tell us what your desert island guitars are.
Yes, make sure to include your address with those pictures of your collections. I'm just kidding.
Garage code.
Yeah, mother's maiden name, high school mascot, first pet's name, and just kidding. Don't do that. But seriously, do share with us your thoughts on this, what your collections are. Are you more inclined as a collector, or are you more inclined as a musician to add? And what is maybe next on your collection? I can tell you what's next for me. And next is a resonator. I want a resonator. I really, really want a resonator. So, you? Cool. What's next?
Maybe Les Paul. I sold my Les Paul. I want a better one. Maybe it's the J45. I don't know. That's why I picked this one, because I'm thinking about my collection. So
he picked this one for me. I don't need another Strat. I've got 3, and they're all different, but nevertheless. Anyways, so hopefully this helped. This is what we do. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos, help us to get to 100,000 subscribers, so that you watch this later on and go, well, they're way past that. That's really cool. This video exists for guitar nerds like you and us. So we hope you keep coming back, because at the end of the day, the very best guitar in the world is your next one.
That's pretty nice.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Once again, you guys, thank you very much for watching. If you want to learn more about the guitar, check out Alamo Music. Pat.
Hey everybody, I love guitar videos just like you do. But guess what? Alamo Music Center has another YouTube channel. You can check out all the piano and keyboard reviews that we have and see more of me. Cooper, do we have another one of those? He's fine.